Hey, how's it going everyone? Wonder video. Today we're going to be covering Ira, one of my all-time favorite Blitz decks that I can really vouch for as a very decent meta pick in the current Blitz format. Of course, there are going to be a lot of people that disagree with me. However, I think we reached a point where we have like a really varied mix of these wizard decks like Icelander and Kano, as well as these go wide decks, which is something that Ira can deal with rather consistently, simply because she has one of the best defense reactions in the game available to her, namely Flick Flack. And what Flick Flack does is if you defend with it, your next combo card that you block with will gain +2 defense. And then because most of our blue cards and most of our cards in the decks are combo cards with 3 defense to begin with, we have very reliable like 2 to 4 blocks on the first attack into a 5 block in the next attack available to us, and because of that we can very easily block with 2 or 3 cards from our hand and still present a decent chunk of damage during our own turn by simply pitching one of our blues and then attacking in with our namesake, like the thing that makes the deck viable, the harmonized Kodachi. So what changed in the Ira list that I run nowadays compared to the one I've run in the past? Well, the main thing that I've changed is that when I play Ira nowadays, I play a lot more defensively than I used to. I used to run this as a bit of an aggro deck, but I feel aggro is not the way to win with this deck, and the reason why it's not to win with this deck is you want to take advantage of Ira's ability as much as you can. Mainly that the second attack every turn is gonna get you that +1 attack, so you want to kind of take advantage of the fact that you have one of the best blocks in the game through the Flick Flags and combo lineups, and at the same time one of the best offensive abilities in the game, giving you an instant +1, which is something that we haven't really seen since Viceroy has gotten Living Legend. So do I think that Ira is a top tier deck? It's definitely not an S tier deck. It's a good deck. It's a really good deck in fact, but it's not S tier. I have very decent results with it. I was able to get first place at several armories in the past 2 or 3 months, and there are some cards in this deck that I do wonder a little bit about if I should cut them. Things like Double Strike, which are not really that great on their own, but do allow us to have some additional massive momentum triggers. And I've also toyed around with having Oasis Respite in the main deck instead of a couple of other cards, instead of things like That All You Got. However, I've reverted back to That All You Got now that with Kano having the Storm Striders banned, I think That All You Got is just a better card in general, because there are a lot of dash, there are a lot of ninjas in the game right now, and That All You Got can help you to present a block at the one hand and at the same time give you a card back while denying your opponent something like a Muscle Momentum trigger, which does allow you to be both defensive and have a little bit more of aggro potential in your own turn as well. We have some very efficient attacks in here, things like Torrent of Temple as a 1 for 5. Take the Tempo is also a 1 for 5. Like this one even has a very nice additional fact that if you have hit 3 times or more in that particular combat chain, you can banish the top card. If it's an attack action card, you may play it into your next turn. Usually that doesn't really come up because we do play such a significant amount of defense reaction and stuff like Sigil of Solace in here. So there's a very high potential that even if you hit with this, that you're probably gonna be banishing something that you don't really want to be banishing in the first place. Or well, not really that you don't want to banish it, but rather that it's not useful to banish it because it could very well be a blue or a defense reaction. But having this on the board and just presenting that trigger does something with the opponent's mindset, especially if you have a Snapdragon Scaleless available to potentially give this go again. It makes people block more than they should, I guess, but I think it's still a great card because what you can very easily do is like go for Kodachi 1, Kodachi 2, and then follow this up as a 5 attack at the end, and that allows you to pretty much attack in for 8 damage with just 2 cards in hand, which is absolutely amazing. So all in all, I'm very happy with this deck. I will put the link down in the description. As for what equipment to bring, I tend to bring the Arcane Lantern and a single Kodachi against things like Icelander, as well as the Null all the Null barrier equipment as well, and just keeping the Mass Momentum by itself, so I go with full AP4. However, you could, if you're up against a Kane, for example, instead of bringing the Arcane Lantern, you can bring yourself a Zephyr Needle. This one, of course, will gain +1 attack if it's the second one you attack in with. And usually Kanos don't really run defense reactions anyway, so Zephyr Needle is kind of nice because you can attack for 4 damage with just 1 blue in hand, which is decent. You can still keep a resource floating as well in case they try to do something on your turn. We have the Tiger Stripe Shuko in here. I think Tiger Stripe Shuko makes so many weird little combos viable. Like Tiger Stripe Shuko is the main thing that makes things like the Double Strike viable in here as well, because you can do some very fun things. For example, you can play a Double Strike for 1, attack for a Kodachi for 2, then attack with Double Strike again for 2, really splitting out that damage equally, making it super awkward for your opponent to block things. Or you could potentially do something like play a Crane Dance for 1, giving it go again with something like a Razor Reflex or your Snapdragon Scaleless, and then going into a Find Center for 3. Find Center now becoming a lot harder to block, especially if it's later on in the combat chain. And because of that, it's also harder to block with equipment, which can block Find Center nowadays, and making it easier to get that super nice Zen State token. Command and Conquer is still hinted twice. I think Command and Conquer is really a staple for an Ira deck, simply because, again, that +1 attack that Ira gives to the second attack is just so absolutely powerful. Like, you can go in with a Kodachi for 1, follow it up with a Command and Conquer for 7. It's just such an awkward breakpoint, especially because this thing blocks them from using defense reactions. Sometimes the opponent still has something like an Oasis Respite, which is a heavily card in the current format, but I really like the deck, and I think if you build this, you're probably gonna have quite a bit of fun with it as well. It's not S tier, it's definitely A tier. I might actually be running this particular list over in the World Championship in November. Like, I'm like, on the one hand, I want to go to the World Championship. I really go there to win it. However, on the other hand, my main goal is to be running this YouTube channel and to be helping people with coaching and stuff like that. So I might just bring my Fire deck and my Ira deck, or maybe even my Katsu deck and my Ira deck to the World Championship, and just see how far I can get with it. Because deep down I feel like, yes, maybe I would stand a much higher chance of getting to the top if I play something like Ultima Icelander, but then if I did make it to the top, it just wouldn't feel right. I feel like I'm gonna readjust my goals in competitive Flesh and Blood, and instead of being focused on always playing the best decks, I want to be focused on playing the decks I like at the highest level possible, and seeing how far I can get, and if I can maybe sometimes spike an event here and there, and see how it goes along the way doing that. So yeah, if you want to follow my journey playing Ninja competitively, this channel is definitely for you. I'm going to be doing more Ninja deck decks in the future. I'm going to continue to update and upgrade all the decks over on my Patreon as well for all the other decks out there, just that I won't be playing them as much in a competitive setting outside of Teleshar and practicing with people that I'm coaching and stuff like that. So sorry that the video is a bit on the weird side. I just got back from the hospital from surgery, but I wanted to put this video out there. I will be back soon with another deck, probably gonna be Chain for the Blitz format, which is yet another deck that I personally really like, and I think Chain is kind of like a honorary Ninja in my opinion, in the way that he can go wide with always go against shenanigans, and having the shadow element tied to him, which should have been a Ninja element if you ask me. But yeah, that's all for me for today. Go play some Ira, have fun with it. I will put the link down in the description so you can play this deck over on Teleshar as well. And if you want me to do a deck for Ira for the Commoner and the Clash format, please let me know. I would more than happily do that. And yeah, that's all from me for today. Thank you for watching, everyone, and I will see you all very, very soon with another Flesh and Blood video.